7 bedtime habits that improve memory while you sleep. Most people believe that memory is something you build only while you are awake, through study, repetition, and effort. That belief is incomplete, and in some ways it is simply wrong. A large part of memory formation actually happens after you close your eyes, while your brain is quietly sorting, filing, and strengthening the information you gathered during the day. This video is for educational purposes only and is not a substitute for personalized medical advice. If you have concerns about your memory or your sleep, it may be helpful to speak with a healthcare professional who knows your history. Here is something that might surprise you. Two people can study the exact same material for the exact same number of hours, and the one who sleeps better that night will often remember more of it a week later. Not because they are smarter and not because they studied harder, but because their brain had the right conditions to consolidate what it had learned. Tonight, we are going to walk through 7 habits, some small and some more involved, that research suggests may support this overnight memory process. And stay with us, because the 6th one is the habit that sleep researchers say is most often overlooked, even though it may be one of the most influential of them all. Before we get into the list, it helps to understand in simple terms what your brain is actually doing while you sleep. Throughout the night, your brain cycles through different stages, including lighter sleep, deep sleep, and a stage called rapid eye movement sleep, often shortened to REM sleep when most dreaming occurs. Each full cycle through these stages takes roughly 90 minutes, and a typical night includes somewhere between 4 and 6 of these cycles, one after another, each one slightly different in composition from the last. During deep sleep, the brain appears to replay and reinforce facts and information, almost like a librarian returning books to their proper shelves, quietly deciding which pages are worth keeping and which can be set aside. This is the stage most closely tied to what scientists call declarative memory, the kind of memory involved in remembering names, facts, dates, and the details of a conversation. During REM sleep, the brain seems to work more on emotional memories and creative connections, linking new information to things you already know, weaving fresh experience into the larger fabric of everything you have lived through before. When either of these stages is cut short, night after night, the filing process may be interrupted, and information that could have become a lasting memory may simply fade away, unfiled, unsorted, and eventually lost. With that foundation in place, let us begin with the first habit. Number 1, keeping a consistent sleep and wake time. Your brain relies on an internal clock, sometimes called the circadian rhythm, to decide when it should release certain hormones, when it should feel alert, and when it should begin preparing for the deeper stages of sleep. This clock does not run on willpower. It runs on pattern and repetition, adjusting itself gradually based on the cues you give it day after day, including light exposure, meal timing, and most importantly, when you consistently go to bed and wake up. When you go to bed and wake up at wildly different times from one day to the next, that internal clock struggles to predict what is coming, and the result is often lighter, more fragmented sleep, even if the total number of hours looks fine on paper. Consider Margaret, a retired schoolteacher in her early 70s. She used to stay up late most nights watching television, then sleep in on weekends to make up for it, believing that as long as the total hours balanced out over the week, her body would not notice the difference. She often told her daughter that she felt foggy by mid-afternoon and that she would forget small things, like where she had placed her reading glasses or whether she had already taken her morning medication. Some days she would even find herself standing in a room, unsure of why she had walked in, a small but frustrating experience she had started to dread. When she began going to bed and waking up at roughly the same time every day, even on weekends, she noticed within a few weeks that her afternoons felt clearer. Her daughter noticed it too, in the way Margaret told stories again, remembering details she used to lose partway through, and in the way she stopped apologizing for forgetting things mid-conversation. It was not a dramatic transformation. It was a gradual return to steadiness, the kind that builds quietly over time rather than announcing itself all at once. A consistent schedule does not need to be rigid down to the minute. Research suggests that keeping your bedtime and wake time within about the same 1-hour window, most days of the week, may allow your circadian rhythm to stabilize, which in turn may support the deeper, more restorative stages of sleep where memory consolidation is believed to occur. Even weekends, often treated as an exception, seem to matter more than people assume, since a late Friday and Saturday night can shift the internal clock in a way that takes several days to fully recover from, a pattern researchers sometimes describe as a kind of miniature jet lag experienced without ever leaving home. Number 2, dimming lights and stepping away from screens before bed. Light is one of the strongest signals your brain uses to decide whether it is daytime or nighttime. Specialized cells in the eye detect brightness and color temperature, then send that information directly to the part of the brain that manages your circadian rhythm. When you look at a bright phone, tablet, or television screen in the hour or two before bed, you are exposing your eyes to a type of light that may suppress the release of melatonin, a hormone that helps prepare your body for sleep. Less melatonin may mean it takes longer to fall asleep, and it may also reduce the amount of time your brain spends in the deeper sleep stages later in the night. This does not mean every screen is dangerous or that one late night scrolling through your phone will damage your memory. The concern is more about a nightly pattern. If bright screens are the last thing your eyes see before you try to sleep, night after night, that pattern may chip away slowly at the quality of sleep your brain needs to do its consolidation work. Over months and years, small nightly deficits can add up in ways that are easy to overlook in the moment but noticeable in hindsight. There is also a psychological layer to this habit that is worth mentioning. Scrolling through news, social media, or work messages right before bed often introduces new stimulation and sometimes stress or worry right at the moment your mind should be slowing down. This mental activation can compound the effect of the light itself, making it doubly difficult for the brain to shift into a restful state. A simple alternative that many sleep researchers recommend is dimming the lights in your home starting about an hour before bedtime, and if possible, setting screens aside in favor of something calmer, like reading a physical book under warm, low light, or simply sitting quietly and talking with a family member. Some people find it helpful to switch their devices to a warmer color setting in the evening, though this is generally considered a smaller step compared to reducing screen use altogether. Small shifts like this may help your brain receive a clearer signal that nighttime, and the memory processing that comes with it is on its way. Number 3 is keeping the bedroom cool and comfortable. Body temperature naturally drops in the evening as part of the process that helps you fall asleep, and a bedroom that is too warm may work against that natural drop. Many sleep specialists suggest that a room temperature somewhere in the range of 60 to 67 degrees Fahrenheit tends to support deeper, more uninterrupted sleep for most adults, though individual comfort can vary based on age, health conditions, and personal preference. Think of it this way: deep sleep, the stage most closely tied to strengthening factual memories, tends to occur more heavily in the first half of the night, and it appears to be particularly sensitive to disruption. Waking up briefly because you feel too hot, even if you do not fully remember waking up in the morning, may pull you out of these valuable stages before they have finished their work. These brief awakenings, sometimes only a few seconds long, can happen dozens of times in a single night without ever registering in conscious memory, yet they may still fragment the deeper stages of sleep enough to reduce their restorative value. Something as simple as adjusting a thermostat, switching to breathable cotton sheets, or cracking a window may make a meaningful difference over time, especially for older adults, who often experience more fragmented sleep to begin with due to natural changes in how the body regulates temperature with age. There is also a quieter, related point worth mentioning here. A cluttered, noisy, or overly bright bedroom can work against you in similar ways. Reducing outside light with curtains, lowering noise where possible, perhaps with a fan or a white noise machine, and reserving the bedroom mainly for sleep rather than work or worry may help your brain associate that space more strongly with rest. Some sleep specialists refer to this as strengthening the mental association between bed and sleep, so that simply lying down begins to feel like a cue for the body to relax. Number 4, practicing a short mental review before sleep. This next habit is one that memory researchers find particularly interesting because it directly targets the way your brain prioritizes what to keep. In the 10 minutes or so before you fall asleep, your brain tends to hold onto whatever thoughts were most recent and most emotionally significant. Some researchers refer to this as the last thought effect, the idea that the final things you think about before sleep may receive a kind of priority tagging, making them more likely to be reinforced overnight, almost as though the brain assumes that whatever occupied your mind last must be important enough to carry forward. A gentle way to use this is to spend a few quiet minutes before bed mentally reviewing something you genuinely want to remember, whether that is a name you learned that day, a piece of information for work or study, or even a happy memory from earlier in the day that you would like to hold on to. This is different from lying in bed replaying stressful thoughts or unfinished tasks, which tends to have the opposite effect, keeping the mind alert and delaying sleep rather than settling it. There was a retired engineer named Walter who began keeping a small notebook by his bed. Each night, before turning off the light, he would write down 2 or 3 things from the day that mattered to him and read them over once, slowly, without rushing. He was not trying to cram information the way he might have studied for an exam decades earlier. He was simply giving his brain something meaningful to carry into sleep, a kind of gentle instruction about what deserved attention. Over time, he told his family that he felt more anchored, more able to recall details from conversations and outings that used to blur together within a day or two of happening. What made Walter's habit particularly effective, according to his own account, was its consistency. He did not do it only on nights when he remembered or felt inspired. He did it every single night, treating it almost like brushing his teeth, a small closing ritual that told his brain the day was complete and it was time to begin processing what had happened. This kind of consistency appears to matter across nearly all of these habits, since the brain seems to respond more reliably to patterns that repeat night after night than to occasional efforts. Number 5, limiting alcohol and heavy meals close to bedtime. Many people believe that a glass of wine or a nightcap helps them sleep better, and in a narrow sense, alcohol can make you feel drowsy and help you fall asleep faster. The trouble is what happens later in the night. As your body processes alcohol, it tends to fragment sleep in the second half of the night, and it may specifically reduce the amount of time spent in REM sleep, the stage many researchers associate with emotional and associative memory processing. In effect, alcohol may help you fall asleep while quietly undermining the very stages of sleep most responsible for consolidating what you learned that day. Heavy or rich meals eaten too close to bedtime can create a similar problem, though through a different mechanism. Digesting a large meal takes energy and can raise body temperature at a time when your body is trying to cool down for sleep, which may lead to more restless, lighter sleep overall. Spicy or acidic foods can add another layer of disruption for some people, occasionally causing discomfort that leads to waking during the night. Caffeine deserves a brief mention here as well, since it is often consumed later in the day than people realize. Caffeine can remain active in the body for several hours after it is consumed, meaning an afternoon coffee or tea may still be affecting sleep quality well into the evening, even for people who do not feel consciously wired or alert. This does not mean every dinner has to be small or every evening alcohol-free. It is more about timing and moderation. Finishing your last substantial meal 2 to 3 hours before bed, being mindful of how much alcohol you have in the evening, and watching the timing of caffeine throughout the day may give your body a better chance to settle into the deeper stages of sleep where memory consolidation tends to be strongest. Number 6, practicing a wind-down routine that calms the nervous system. Here is the habit we mentioned earlier, the one that sleep researchers often say gets the least attention, even though it may carry some of the greatest impact. It has to do with how activated your nervous system is in the minutes before you try to fall asleep. When you go from a stressful, stimulating activity, checking work email, watching an intense show, arguing about the day's frustrations, straight into bed, your body is often still carrying elevated levels of cortisol, a stress hormone that prepares the body for alertness rather than rest. Cortisol and deep, restorative sleep do not mix well together. Even if you manage to fall asleep quickly, elevated stress hormones in your system may interfere with the depth and quality of that sleep, which in turn may limit how effectively your brain consolidates memories overnight. A wind-down routine is simply a consistent set of calming activities that signal to your body, step by step, that the stimulating part of the day is over. This might include gentle stretching, slow breathing exercises, a warm shower, quiet conversation, or light reading. The specific activity matters less than the consistency and the calming effect it has on your body. What seems to matter most is that the routine is predictable, repeated in roughly the same order each night, so that your nervous system begins to recognize the sequence itself as a cue to relax. There was a woman named Dorothy in her late 60s who had always considered herself a poor sleeper. She fell asleep easily enough, but she woke up most mornings feeling like she had barely rested, and she often struggled to recall details from conversations the day before, sometimes asking her husband to repeat things he had told her only hours earlier. When her doctor suggested a simple 20-minute wind-down routine, dimming lights, doing slow breathing exercises, and avoiding anything stressful in that final stretch before bed, she was skeptical that something so small could matter, especially after years of feeling like nothing helped. After about a month, she noticed she was waking up with a clearer head, and she found herself remembering the names of her grandchildren's friends and the small details of family stories that she used to lose track of. Her husband noticed the change too, in the way she began finishing stories she once would have abandoned halfway through, unsure of where they were going. Her experience is not a guarantee for everyone, but it illustrates why researchers consider this habit worth taking seriously even when it looks, on the surface, deceptively simple. Breathing exercises in particular have drawn attention from researchers studying stress and sleep. One commonly recommended pattern involves breathing in slowly for a count of 4, holding for a count of 7, and exhaling for a count of 8, repeated several times. The exact numbers matter less than the general principle: slow, deliberate breathing that lengthens the exhale, which appears to activate the body's natural relaxation response and gradually lower heart rate and cortisol levels. Number 7, getting a full uninterrupted amount of sleep for your age. The final habit brings together everything we have discussed so far, because none of these strategies matter much if you're simply not giving your brain enough total time to move through its sleep cycles. Most adults need somewhere between 7 and 9 hours of sleep per night to move through several complete cycles of light sleep, deep sleep, and REM sleep. Each cycle plays a slightly different role, and cutting sleep short, even by an hour or two on a regular basis, may mean missing out on the later cycles of the night, which tend to contain a greater proportion of REM sleep. This is sometimes misunderstood. People often assume that only the first few hours of sleep matter and that waking up early is not a problem as long as you fell asleep on time. In reality, the later cycles of the night appear to play their own distinct role in memory processing, particularly for emotional memories and creative problem solving. Consistently cutting sleep short at the end of the night, even while getting to bed on time, may still leave part of the memory consolidation process unfinished, almost like closing a book with the final chapter left unread. There is also the matter of sleep debt, a term researchers use to describe the cumulative effect of repeatedly getting less sleep than the body needs. Unlike a single late night, which the body can often recover from within a day or two, chronic sleep debt built up over weeks or months does not appear to be fully repaid by one long weekend of catching up. The body and brain seem to respond better to steady, adequate sleep night after night than to a pattern of shortfall followed by occasional excess. Everyone is different, and total sleep needs can shift slightly with age, health conditions, and individual biology. Paying attention to how you feel and function during the day, rather than fixating on a single number, is often a more practical guide. If you are consistently waking up unrefreshed, struggling with concentration, or noticing more memory lapses than usual, it may be worth discussing your sleep patterns with a healthcare professional who can help rule out underlying conditions such as sleep apnea, which can also affect memory and is sometimes mistaken for ordinary aging or stress. Before we close, let us bring these 7 habits together, because seeing them as a whole often makes clearer why each one matters on its own. Keeping a consistent sleep and wake schedule helps stabilize your internal clock, giving your body a reliable rhythm to work from. Dimming lights and stepping away from screens supports the release of melatonin, easing the transition from an alert day into a restful night. Keeping your bedroom cool protects the deep sleep stages that occur early in the night, when so much of the factual, day-to-day memory work seems to take place. A short mental review before bed may help your brain prioritize what to remember, gently guiding the filing process before it even begins. Limiting alcohol and heavy meals close to bedtime protects the second half of the night, where REM sleep becomes more prominent and emotional memory consolidation tends to occur. A calming wind-down routine lowers stress hormones that might otherwise interfere with deep sleep, teaching the nervous system, night after night, that it is safe to let go. And getting a full, uninterrupted night of sleep allows your brain to move through every stage of the cycle, from the earliest hours to the last, completing a process that simply cannot be rushed or shortened without some cost. None of these habits require expensive equipment or drastic lifestyle changes. Most of them are adjustments to timing, environment, and routine, small shifts that, practiced consistently, appear to compound over weeks and months into a noticeably clearer, steadier memory. Like most things related to the brain and the body, patience tends to matter more than intensity. A single well-rested night rarely transforms anyone, but weeks of small, consistent choices, repeated quietly and without fanfare, often do. If there is one statistic worth carrying with you from this video, it is this. Sleep researchers have found that a single night of significantly shortened or fragmented sleep can reduce next-day recall of newly learned information by as much as 40% compared to a full night of rest. That is not a small effect. It is a reminder that memory is not only built during the hours you are awake, studying, working, and living your life. It is also built quietly, night after night, in the hours when you are simply asleep, doing what feels like nothing at all, but is in fact some of the most important work your brain ever does. We would love to hear from you. Which of these 7 habits do you already practice, and which one are you thinking about trying tonight? Let us know in the comments below. We read through them and often learn just as much from your experiences as you might learn from ours. If you found this video helpful, please consider sharing it with someone who might benefit from better sleep and a sharper memory. Perhaps a parent, a grandparent, or a friend who has mentioned feeling forgetful lately. And if you would like to see more videos like this one, subscribing helps us know what to bring you next. Thank you for spending this time with us, and we hope you sleep well tonight.